Senior, the 2 worst vitamins that weaken your legs after 60. And no, that's not clickbait. What if I told you the weakness, soreness, and instability you feel when walking or climbing stairs might not just be old age? What if 2 very common vitamins, one's marketed as essential, could actually be silently destroying your muscle fibers, interfering with calcium metabolism, and increasing your risk of dangerous falls? Sounds shocking? That's because it is. In today's video, I'll reveal the truth behind 2 popular supplements that may be doing more harm than good, especially for seniors over 60. Backed by real clinical research and stories from patients who trusted their vitamin bottles too much, this episode will change how you look at your health cabinet forever. Drop a comment below if you've ever wondered why your legs feel heavier, slower, or more fragile than they used to. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss science-backed insights that can literally change how you age. Stick with me to the end, because your legs are speaking to you. And today, we're finally going to listen. Let's move to number 1, the silent crisis, why leg strength loss is so dangerous. Behind every unsteady step after 60 lies a physiological story few are told. It begins with a condition called sarcopenia, the age-related loss of skeletal muscle mass and function. Sarcopenia begins as early as our 30s, but it accelerates rapidly in the decades after 60, especially without proper intervention. And here's the silent tragedy. It doesn't just shrink muscles, it shrinks lives. At a cellular level, sarcopenia is driven by mitochondrial dysfunction. These are the tiny power plants inside your muscle cells responsible for producing energy. As we age, mitochondrial efficiency declines. Damaged mitochondria accumulate. Oxidative stress increases. The muscles receive less fuel and repair themselves more slowly. The result? Weakness, fatigue, and slower reflexes. But age isn't the only culprit. The foods we eat, the supplements we take without knowing their long-term effects, and even well-meaning but misguided habits, like skipping meals or over-supplementing, can accelerate this decline. A groundbreaking study from the Journal of Gerontology found that older adults with the lowest leg strength were more likely to experience loss of independence, institutionalization, and mortality, even after adjusting for heart disease or diabetes. In short, your leg strength is a biomarker of your overall health trajectory. Yet despite this, the issue remains underdiagnosed and undertreated. Why? Because it's invisible at first. Doctors focus on blood pressure, cholesterol, and glucose, but few measure grip strength or assess how easily a patient rises from a chair. Even fewer ask about stairs or balance until a fall occurs. By then, the damage is done. But here's the empowering truth. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. Unlike cartilage or neurons, it's regenerative. You can grow it, you can strengthen it, you can preserve it. The key is knowing what sabotages it quietly, especially what you eat and supplement every single day. In the next part, we'll explore the most dangerous hidden culprits that are sabotaging your legs without you even realizing it. Foods and substances that you might be consuming with the best intentions, but that could be breaking you down from the inside out. Are you ready to learn the truth? Let's move to number 2. The worst culprits in disguise, not just junk food. By now, you may be thinking the problem lies solely in the snacks and sweets we've long considered indulgences. But what if I told you the real danger often hides in your pantry, in bottles labeled healthy, in breakfast routines passed down for generations, and yes, even in your supplement drawer? Let's get one thing straight. The damage to your legs after 60 isn't always caused by lack of movement or aging alone. Much of it stems from a deeper systemic process: chronic inflammation, poor circulation, metabolic dysfunction, and silent nutritional imbalances. And these are made worse, sometimes triggered, by what we consume daily, often believing it's helping us. I had a patient, Mr. Wallace, a retired firefighter, tough, disciplined, and proud. At 67, he started noticing he couldn't climb stairs without holding the railing. He brushed it off at first. Just tired legs, he'd say. But over 6 months, his balance deteriorated. He stopped walking his dog. Eventually, a minor fall sent him to my clinic. We ran tests. No stroke, no nerve damage. What we found instead was a perfect storm of nutritional sabotage. A steady diet of processed meats, white bread, heart-healthy cereals, and a supplement routine that included megadoses of vitamin D and vitamin A, all done with good intentions. But when we examined his biochemistry, it was clear. His muscles were inflamed, nutrient-deprived, and struggling. The research backs this up. A 2021 meta-analysis published in Nutrients Journal found that ultra-processed foods are associated with increased markers of systemic inflammation, including C-reactive protein, CRP, a known predictor of muscle catabolism and weakness in older adults. Inflammation isn't just a buzzword, it's a physiological fire burning through your muscles, joints, and connective tissue. Let's break down what this fire feeds on. First, sugar, especially refined sugar, is a powerful promoter of inflammation. It spikes insulin, disrupts energy metabolism, and damages mitochondria. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that high sugar intake was directly associated with loss of muscle strength and greater risk of frailty in seniors. Next are trans fats and oxidized oils, common in fried foods and baked goods. These fats damage the endothelium, the delicate lining of your blood vessels, restricting blood flow to your legs. Less oxygen, less nutrient delivery, slower repair, more pain. Then there are refined grains, white bread, instant noodles, packaged breakfast cereals. They spike glucose, contribute to insulin resistance, and lack the protein and micronutrients your muscles desperately need. It's not just about calories, it's about what those calories are made of and what they steal from your system. Sodium-heavy processed meats, think bacon, sausage, deli ham, further complicate matters. Not only do they contain pro-inflammatory preservatives like nitrites, but their high salt content promotes fluid retention and increases blood pressure. That leads to stiff, heavy legs and compromised circulation. A 2019 study from the British Journal of Nutrition found a clear link between high sodium intake and reduced lower limb function in older women. And don't forget hidden culprits like monosodium glutamate, MSG, artificial sweeteners, and phosphates in ultra-processed cheeses and canned goods. These additives disrupt gut microbiota, increase systemic inflammation, and impair mineral absorption, robbing your muscles of magnesium, calcium, and potassium, the very electrolytes that keep you moving fluidly. But perhaps the most unsettling truth is this. Even foods marketed as healthy can be part of the problem. Industrial smoothies overloaded with fructose, vitamin-enriched cereals spiked with synthetic additives, calcium-fortified orange juice lacking magnesium balance, all of these feed imbalance rather than harmony. Now let me be clear. The body is resilient, but when exposed daily to foods that promote inflammation, restrict circulation, and starve the muscles of essential nutrients, even the strongest legs will falter. Mr. Wallace didn't need medication. What he needed was education and intervention. We changed his diet, we tailored his supplements, we added physical therapy focused on eccentric leg strength. In 6 months, he was walking confidently again. Not because of a miracle, but because of method. This leads us to one of the most surprising revelations in this entire journey, something so counterintuitive it shocks even other doctors. In the next section, we'll look at how 2 vitamins, yes, vitamins, commonly taken for health can actually undermine your leg strength, disrupt your muscle coordination, and in high doses cause more harm than good. Let's move to number 3 and talk about vitamin A and why this essential nutrient can quietly become a dangerous foe after 60. Vitamin A, the double-edged sword. Now, let's turn to a nutrient that most people would never suspect could harm their legs. Vitamin A. Yes, the very same vitamin we've long associated with good vision, immune defense, and healthy skin. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Too much of it, especially after 60, can quietly sabotage your muscles and mobility. Vitamin A is what we call a fat-soluble vitamin. This means it doesn't flush out easily like vitamin C or the B vitamins. Instead, it accumulates, especially in the liver, in fat tissues, and alarmingly, within joints and muscles if taken in excess. And that's precisely where the trouble begins. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 71-year-old retired librarian who came to my clinic complaining of vague, dull aches in her thighs and lower back. She felt weaker getting up from chairs, needed the railing on the stairs, and had started avoiding outings altogether. We ran a battery of tests. Her vitamin A levels? Sky high. She had been taking a multivitamin daily, plus a high-dose separate vitamin A supplement her friend recommended for skin and bone health. On paper, she thought she was protecting herself. In reality, she was slowing her muscle recovery, blocking mineral absorption, and building up a toxic load that was inflaming her joints. This isn't just anecdotal. A Harvard Medical School study in 2015 published in the journal Osteoporosis International found that excess vitamin A intake was linked to decreased bone mineral density and increased fracture risk in postmenopausal women. In particular, the femoral neck and spine, two key load-bearing regions of the body, were most impacted. Why? Because too much vitamin A interferes with vitamin D metabolism and reduces calcium absorption, leading to weaker bones and impaired muscle contraction. This imbalance also depletes magnesium, a mineral essential for nerve signal transmission and muscular relaxation. The end result? A body that feels stiff, tight, and sore, especially in the legs. In more severe cases, this leads to a condition known as hypervitaminosis A. Symptoms include muscle pain, especially in the thighs and calves, joint discomfort mimicking arthritis, fatigue and sluggish motor response, increased risk of fractures due to compromised bone density, irritability and dry, thinning skin. And yet, most people taking vitamin A aren't even aware of their dosage. They're combining multivitamins, fortified cereals, liver pate, high retinol skincare products, and sometimes prescription-strength supplements. It adds up fast. In fact, the Mayo Clinic reports that chronic intake of more than 10,000 IU per day of vitamin A, especially in the form of retinol, the animal-derived version, can lead to toxic effects. And here's where seniors are especially vulnerable. Metabolism slows down with age, making the clearance of fat-soluble vitamins less efficient. And still, the irony persists. Vitamin A is essential in the right amounts. It's involved in gene expression, cellular repair, immune function, and eye health. The problem lies not in the vitamin itself, but in how much we're taking and in what form. So what's the solution? First, avoid self-medicating with high-dose vitamin A supplements unless specifically prescribed. Get your vitamin A from food first, not from a pill. Focus on beta-carotene-rich sources like carrots, sweet potatoes, spinach, and pumpkin. These plant-based forms are converted by the body only as needed, which means they don't carry the same toxicity risk. Second, if you're taking a multivitamin, check the label. Many standard formulations include preformed vitamin A, retinol palmitate or retinol acetate, plus beta-carotene, a double dose that may already exceed your daily requirement. The recommended daily allowance, RDA, for vitamin A in adults over 50 is 700 mg RAE for women and 900 mg RAE for men. That's about 2,300 to 3,000 IU. Now compare that to the 10,000 IU often found in high-potency supplements. You see the problem. Finally, ask your doctor to test your serum vitamin A levels if you've been taking supplements regularly. A simple blood test can identify if you're at risk of hypervitaminosis A and help you rebalance your intake safely. Margaret, after 6 months of adjusting her diet, eliminating the excess supplements, and adding back magnesium-rich legumes and greens, she was back to walking daily. No stairs, no pain, no shame. She didn't need another medication. She just needed accurate information. So remember, vitamins can heal, but in the wrong dose, they can harm. What starts as prevention can become a poison when we overdo it, especially as we age. Now that we've explored the risks of excess vitamin A, it's time to shine a light on another vitamin that's just as essential, but even more dangerous when overused. Let's move to number 4, and uncover the truth behind vitamin D and how the sunshine vitamin might be silently stiffening your legs. Vitamin D, when more becomes too much. We've all heard the same refrain, get your vitamin D, it's good for your bones. And while that's absolutely true, there's a dangerous myth quietly spreading through the senior community, that more vitamin D must mean more protection. But what if I told you that taking too much of this so-called sunshine vitamin could be one of the hidden reasons why your legs feel stiff, heavy, or even painful? This isn't speculation, it's science. And sadly, it's a lesson some learn the hard way. Let me tell you about Robert, a 69-year-old retired teacher who prided himself on doing everything right. He exercised, avoided junk food, and followed his doctor's advice religiously. Concerned about bone loss, he began taking 10,000 IU of vitamin D daily. twice the upper limit, for over a year, thinking it would guard him against fractures. But instead of feeling stronger, he felt slower. Climbing stairs was harder. His legs cramped at night. Eventually, after a minor fall, we ran labs. The results were alarming. His serum calcium levels were dangerously elevated, and imaging showed signs of vascular calcification in his legs. In trying to protect his health, Robert had unknowingly walked straight into a trap: hypervitaminosis D. Here's what you need to understand. Vitamin D is fat-soluble, meaning it's stored in fat and liver tissue, not flushed out like vitamin C. In moderate doses, it enhances calcium absorption in the gut, promotes bone strength, and supports immunity. But in excess, it pushes too much calcium into the bloodstream, a condition known as hypercalcemia. And when calcium builds up where it shouldn't, like in muscle tissue, joints, tendons, and even arteries, the results can be devastating. Legs become stiff, muscles cramp and ache, and mobility declines. Seniors are especially vulnerable because the kidneys, which help regulate calcium and vitamin D metabolism, become less efficient with age. The Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism has reported that vitamin D toxicity, while rare, is increasing, especially among older adults self-supplementing without medical supervision. Even worse, many cases aren't diagnosed until symptoms like muscle pain, nausea, fatigue, and kidney dysfunction have already begun. A 2022 study from the University of Toronto followed 3,000 older adults and found that those consistently taking more than 4,000 IUs per day of vitamin D had a significantly higher incidence of leg muscle weakness, poor balance scores, and impaired coordination compared to those taking standard doses. How does this happen? Too much vitamin D leads to too much calcium in the blood. This calcium deposits into soft tissues, including your calves, quadriceps, and gluteal muscles, all crucial for walking, standing, and balance. It also increases vascular stiffness, which reduces blood flow to leg muscles, leading to slower recovery, more fatigue, and increased fall risk. And yet, the public narrative often ignores this. We hear stories about deficiency, but almost none about the risks of oversupplementing. That's why so many seniors, out of genuine concern for their health, make the same mistake Robert did, adding more and more without realizing they're crossing a dangerous threshold. So how much is too much? The recommended dietary allowance, RDA for adults over 70, is 800 IU per day, with a tolerable upper intake limit of 4,000 IU. But even at 2,000 IU, if you're getting additional vitamin D from fortified foods, fish oil, or multivitamins, your total intake might still exceed safe limits. And again, this is not a water-soluble vitamin. It sticks around. If you've been supplementing vitamin D long-term, or you're experiencing unexplained muscle pain, joint stiffness, or fatigue, get your levels tested. A simple 25-hydroxy-vitamin D blood test can help you and your doctor determine if your intake needs adjusting. Now, some may ask, isn't vitamin D deficiency still a problem in seniors? Absolutely. Low vitamin D is linked to poor bone density, increased fracture risk, and even immune suppression. But the solution is not blind megadosing, it's precision. It's testing, titrating, and tracking. In Robert's case, we stopped the high-dose supplements, added magnesium and hydration support, and lowered his calcium intake temporarily. Within 3 months, the cramps were gone. 6 months later, he was hiking again, with a blood vitamin D level in the optimal zone, not too low, not too high. The takeaway? Vitamin D is not the villain, but neither is it a panacea. In excess, it can do real harm, especially to your legs. The very nutrient meant to protect your bones can, paradoxically, weaken your muscles and stiffen your stride if taken recklessly. If you're a senior taking vitamin D daily, don't stop, but don't guess. Get tested. Talk to your doctor. And remember, sometimes less is more. Now that we've uncovered the 2 surprising vitamins that could be weakening your legs, it's time to shift our attention to healing. Because here's the good news. Your muscles can bounce back if you know what to feed them. Let's move to number 5. Dietary solutions. Food as functional medicine. We'll explore the best leg-saving nutrients, healing foods, and how to rebuild your strength naturally, starting at your next meal. When we talk about regaining strength after 60, especially in the legs, we often picture gym routines, balance training, or physical therapy sessions. And yes, those things matter. But in over 30 years of medical practice, I've found that one of the most overlooked interventions, the one with the highest return on investment, is what goes on your plate. Food isn't just fuel. It's a biochemical conversation between your cells and your environment. Every bite you take either feeds inflammation or fights it, builds muscle or breaks it down, strengthens your legs or slowly saps them of vitality. Let me take you back to a patient named Clara. She was 74, widowed, and walked with a cane. Not because of injury, but because her legs had simply given up, as she described it. Her blood work showed borderline anemia, low magnesium, and surprisingly, a diet that was high in calories, but starved of nutrients. She wasn't sedentary, she still tried to move, but her nutrition was working against her every step of the way. Together, we rewrote her grocery list. We didn't talk superfoods or supplements, we talked function. Foods that nourish muscle, quiet inflammation, and stabilize blood sugar. Within 6 weeks, her gait was more stable. Within 4 months, the cane was gathering dust in her hall closet. Here's what helped Clara, and what can help you too. Let's begin with magnesium. This mineral is a silent hero in muscle function. It's involved in over 300 biochemical reactions, including the relaxation phase of muscle contraction. Without it, your legs cramp, twitch, and feel chronically tight. After 60, magnesium absorption declines, and yet medications like diuretics, proton pump inhibitors, and even excess vitamin D can deplete it further. To replenish magnesium naturally, look to leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard, pumpkin seeds, black beans, and avocados. One of my favorite prescriptions? A cup of cooked quinoa with chopped kale, olive oil, and lemon juice. It's not just delicious, it's neuromuscular therapy on a plate. Next, let's talk about potassium. Most people associate potassium with bananas, but the truth is bananas barely scratch the surface. Potassium is vital for nerve transmission and fluid balance. When you're low, legs feel heavy and unresponsive. Especially in seniors on blood pressure medications or low-sodium diets, potassium deficiency can silently undermine mobility. Upgrade your potassium by including foods like sweet potatoes, white beans, cooked beet greens, and butternut squash. These don't just restore electrolyte balance, they reduce swelling and help your muscles contract more effectively with every step. Then there's omega-3 fatty acids, natural anti-inflammatories that calm the internal fire driving joint pain, stiffness, and muscle degradation. Found in chia seeds, ground flaxseed, walnuts, and especially fatty fish like wild-caught salmon or sardines, omega-3s integrate into your cellular membranes and improve mitochondrial efficiency, a critical aspect of aging muscle. A 2017 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that omega-3 supplementation significantly increased thigh muscle strength in older adults over just 6 months, even without major changes to exercise habits. And then comes protein, the structural foundation of muscle. Seniors need more protein per kilogram of body weight than younger adults to maintain muscle mass. The key isn't just eating more, it's spacing it out properly. You want 20 to 30 grams per meal, ideally coming from sources that are easy to digest and rich in essential amino acids. Some great options include eggs, tofu, tempeh, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, lentils, and quinoa. Plant-based combinations can be just as effective when balanced correctly. Clara, for example, had a simple breakfast that worked wonders. A tofu scramble with sautéed spinach, bell peppers, and a side of cooked oats topped with walnuts and chia seeds. It gave her 25 grams of protein, a surge of anti-inflammatory fats, and kept her blood sugar steady until lunch. Speaking of blood sugar, here's a detail most people miss. Glycemic stability is essential for muscle performance. Blood sugar spikes and crashes feed inflammation, damage nerves, and worsen fatigue. A diet high in refined carbs and sugar is one of the fastest ways to sabotage your leg strength. This is where fiber comes in. Not just for digestion, but to slow carbohydrate absorption, feed your gut microbiome, and lower systemic inflammation. The best sources? Lentils, black beans, chia, flax, pears, wet and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And now we arrive at the most overlooked nutrient for aging legs, vitamin K2. Unlike vitamin K1 from greens, K2 helps direct calcium into your bones and away from your soft tissues, including arteries and muscles. Without enough K2, calcium from supplements or food can end up in your leg arteries, contributing to stiffness and cramps. K2 is found in fermented foods like natto, aged cheeses, and sauerkraut, as well as in small amounts in pasture-raised egg yolks and chicken thighs. For seniors already dealing with vascular stiffness, I often recommend testing K2 levels and considering food-based repletion under medical guidance. So what does a leg-saving meal look like? Imagine this: grilled salmon over a bed of steamed kale and quinoa, dressed with lemon tahini sauce, and a side of roasted sweet potatoes with cinnamon, followed by a dessert of Greek yogurt with ground flaxseed, walnuts, and a few berries. That's not a supplement. That's not a medication. That's clinical nutrition, designed to heal, not just to satisfy. Before we move on, let me say this clearly. You can't out-train a bad diet, and you can't supplement your way out of poor eating habits. But when you make consistent, thoughtful food choices, ones that respect the complexity of your aging body, you create an internal environment where your legs can thrive, not deteriorate. You nourish your mitochondria, reduce inflammation, feed your nerves, and rebuild the scaffolding of strength. Now, you might be wondering, is it too late? If I've already lost strength, can I really get it back? Let's answer that in the next section, because the answer may surprise and inspire you. Let's move to number 6, the hope factor. Muscle can come back, and I'll show you the cutting-edge science and real patient stories that prove it. I've had patients walk into my office in tears, not because they were in pain, though many of them were, but because they believed their condition was permanent. They looked at their shaky legs, their loss of balance, the stairs they now avoided, and asked me the most heartbreaking question of all. Is this just how it ends? Let me tell you, no, it's not. The belief that muscle loss after 60 is inevitable and irreversible is one of the most damaging myths in medicine. Yes, sarcopenia, the age-related decline in muscle mass, is real. But it's not a one-way street. In fact, studies from leading institutions like McMaster University in Canada and Tufts University's Jean Mayer, USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging have shown that even people in their 80s and 90s can gain muscle, improve strength, and restore function. That's right, muscle can come back, but only if we give it the chance. Here's what the science tells us. In one landmark study, researchers placed seniors aged 72 to 98 on a 10-week resistance training program. These were individuals who had been sedentary, frail, and reliant on assistive devices. After just 10 weeks of strength training, under supervision, they gained over 100% strength in certain muscle groups. Many walked faster, stood taller, and in some cases no longer needed walkers. What changed? Not their age, not their genetics. What changed was the stimulation of muscle fibers, those tiny cellular engines that had been waiting, dormant, for a signal to grow. Combined with adequate protein intake, anti-inflammatory nutrients, and movement, their bodies responded with the same blueprint they had in their 30s. Slower, yes, but not broken. This isn't just theory, it's personal. One of my patients, Mr. Joseph M., was a retired high school teacher, 78 years old, who came to see me after a terrifying fall on his porch. He told me he'd been diagnosed with muscle wasting and prescribed calcium, vitamin D, and a cane. But nobody had asked about his diet, exercise history, or daily routine. Together, we changed that. We introduced simple resistance movements, bodyweight squats to a chair, wall push-ups, and eventually resistance bands. He started eating 25 grams of protein at breakfast, added a daily omega-3 supplement, and cut out the sugary snacks that were inflaming his joints. 6 months later, he was not only walking confidently, he was dancing at his granddaughter's wedding. Why does this matter? Because every leg that stands, every step that climbs, every walk in the garden or stroll down the grocery aisle is a declaration of independence. And muscle strength is the currency that buys you that freedom. To be clear, this isn't about bodybuilding or athletic performance. It's about functional strength, the ability to rise from a chair unassisted, to walk without fear, to move through life without clinging to walls or railings for safety. What does it take? First, consistency over intensity. You don't need to lift heavy weights. Start with bodyweight exercises. Sit and stand from a chair 10 times twice a day. Do light stretches and ankle circles to stimulate blood flow. Add low-impact movements like swimming, walking, or Tai Chi, proven to improve balance and proprioception in older adults. Second, feed the muscle. As discussed in Part 6, aim for high-quality protein, magnesium, potassium, and omega-3s daily. It's not just about the quantity, it's about distribution and bioavailability. Spread your protein across 3 meals, include a variety of whole foods, and stay hydrated. Dehydration reduces muscle contractility and increases the risk of cramps. Third, address inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation, what researchers call inflammaging, blunts muscle growth, triggers fatigue, and destroys connective tissue integrity. That's why diet matters. That's why gut health matters. That's why reducing sugar, processed fats, and chemical additives is just as important as exercise. Fourth, check your medications and supplements. As we explored in parts 4 and 5, even so-called helpful vitamins like A and D, when taken in excess, can weaken your legs by promoting calcification, draining essential minerals, or damaging the kidneys. Make sure you're working with a provider who can tailor your regimen based on lab data, not guesswork. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, believe that change is possible. Science supports it. Case studies prove it. And your own body, with the right inputs, is capable of far more than you've been told. If you're feeling discouraged, if your legs feel like they're betraying you, remember this: they're not giving up. They're calling out for movement, for nutrition, for attention, and for healing. You don't need to be an athlete. You just need to take the first step, and the next, and the next. Because with the right science, the right strategy, and the right mindset, your strength isn't behind you. It's ahead. Let's wrap it up in number 7. Walk with confidence, not caution, where I'll give you a final roadmap, a renewed perspective, and a powerful call to action that could change the way you age, starting today. If you've made it this far, I want to commend you, not just for your attention, but for your courage. Because facing leg weakness after 60 isn't just a medical issue. It's deeply personal. It affects how you move, how you connect with the world, and how you see yourself. When every step becomes uncertain, when stairs look like mountains, and when a fall is no longer a risk but a looming fear, it changes everything. But here's the truth. You are not powerless. The science is clear. Most leg weakness in aging is not inevitable. It's influenced by what we eat, by what we avoid, by what we supplement, and by how we move or don't. Today, you've learned that not all vitamins are harmless. In fact, some of the most trusted names in health, vitamin A and vitamin D, can become saboteurs when taken in excess. You've seen how sugar, processed fats, additives, and poor circulation quietly wear down the muscles in your legs over time. You've seen how lifestyle, not just age, can determine whether you stand tall or struggle to rise. But you've also seen that healing is possible. You've seen the data from Tufts, McMaster, Harvard, and Mayo Clinic. You've heard about real people, like Mr. Joseph M., who reversed their weakness and reclaimed their strength. You now understand that sarcopenia can be slowed, even reversed, and that leg function can return with the right combination of resistance, nutrition, and attention. You don't need to run marathons. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start walking with confidence, not caution. Here's your next step. Go check your medicine cabinet. Look at your vitamin dosages. Are you taking more than 3,000 IU of vitamin A daily? More than 4,000 IU of vitamin D without a recent blood test? Talk to your doctor. Ask questions. Don't settle for because it's good for you without data to support it. Then, open your pantry. What's in there? How many items have a label you can't pronounce? Start making swaps. Oats instead of white bread, leafy greens instead of fried chips, dark chocolate instead of sugary confections. Every change counts. Every meal matters. And finally, move. Even a short walk every day begins to reverse the tide. Resistance bands, water aerobics, Tai Chi. Choose what feels right and stick with it. You are the author of the next chapter of your life. And in that chapter, you don't have to be afraid of your own legs. You can trust them. You can build them. You can reclaim them. If this video resonated with you, do me and yourself a favor. Comment below with the word rebuild so I know you're taking that step forward. Hit the like button to tell YouTube this video matters. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the life-saving, life-strengthening information we bring here every week. And most importantly, share this video. You never know who in your life is quietly struggling with weakness and wondering if it's just old age. Help them see it's not. Help them see there's hope. Because aging shouldn't mean retreating, it should mean rising, stronger, wiser, and yes, still walking tall.